Okay, we're recording. All right, so we're back in the Zendo again. I'm going to do a quick opening service, just because it's important to do stuff like that when you're in the Zendo, and when you're not even. As you can see, we have a candle already lit in the Butsudan there, the altar Buddha box, and a stick of incense is burning. I did that earlier. So I'm going to quickly do this little introductory thing that we do each morning for opening the practice. Tekesage. How great the robe of liberation, a formless field of merit, wrapping ourselves in the Buddha's teaching, we free all living beings. Okay, I think what we should do is we'll go ahead and start the Dharma talk, and I'll recite the Heart Sutra afterwards. The Dharma is incomparably profound and minutely subtle. It's rarely encountered in hundreds of thousands and millions of kalpas. We can now see it, hear it, and hold it. May we understand the Tathagata's true meaning. Thank you very much for attending this evening, those of you who are. Tonight, I'd like to talk about mindfulness and mindfulness practice. But first, please enjoy your tea if you have any. It's usually what we do during a Dharma talk. I'm going to pour myself some tea. It's an organic green tea I'm having this evening.
No, he needs to see you.
Please enjoy your tea if you have it. Coffee, wine, whiskey, beer, whatever. I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I can't control what you guys are doing. So I'm not even going to try. All right. Mindfulness is a big word today. Wired magazine a couple of years ago had a whole issue devoted to mindfulness practice in the Silicon Valley, California, and other big companies. And it was all the rage. And you can see articles about mindfulness everywhere. Mindfulness this and mindfulness that. It's just like it's code for something. Woke people, I don't know. But there's a problem. Two things. One, it's hard to separate mindfulness from Buddhist practice. Just like it's hard to separate Zazen from Buddhist practice. They are parcel of the same thing. You can't separate what's inseparable. You could try, but that would be very difficult. It's important to keep a context. When we're practicing Zazen, we're practicing in a context. If we're just sitting outside watching the birds and the bees, that's not meditation, although it's called meditation by many. Guided meditation, for example, is meditation in some respects, but it's not meditation as we practice. Be that as it may, they're all useful practices, I'm sure. But mindfulness practice is something different. The Buddha taught a sutra on the four establishments of mindfulness. And Thich Nhat Hanh did a commentary and presented the actual sutra in his book, Transformation and Healing. And it's actually not a bad book and commentary. The translation he has is the original translation from the original. When he mentions that there are three different versions of this sutra, and he's using the first one. But anyway, it's often mistaken to think that when you practice mindfulness, you're being mindful. They're not the same. Practicing mindfulness is different from being mindful. Practicing mindfulness, there's a duality created in the practice. If you read the sutra, what the Buddha says we should do is take our seat in a nice quiet place and focus our attention on ourselves and our practice. And he says something like, be aware when you're breathing a deep breath, be aware, I'm aware I'm breathing a deep breath. Breathing a shallow breath, I'm aware I'm breathing a shallow breath, and so on. That statement in itself creates a duality. Much like in the Dharma Sutra, when Buddha asked Subhuti about the giving of dana, you lose your bodhisattva status if you separate the gift from the giver and the receiver. You're creating a duality. So this is obviously meant as a practice to help us develop the ability to be mindful. That's different from being mindful, understand? If I go to the pistol range and I practice shooting, I'm practicing shooting. Now I am shooting, there's no question, but I'm practicing shooting. I'm not shooting, if you get my drift. If I'm practicing serving tea, I'm practicing serving tea. I'm not serving tea. I'm practicing serving tea. I'm separating myself from the serving of tea in order to observe myself doing the practice, which is what the Buddha was teaching. He says, oh, and I meant to do this. I don't know if I can right now. Let me, goodness, I can't see that screen all that well. I think I can here add a file. Let's see. Oh, no, that's a mute button. The wrong button. Well, where's the file button? Well, never mind. I had a file set up to bring in a synopsis of the sutra that I'm talking about, but I can repeat what I was going to say right here. Hold on a minute. Get it out. Okay, there's 4 establishments he talks about. The establishment of breath, the establishment of body, the establishment of mind, and the establishment of feelings. And Buddha has articulated in each case how to practice that particular version of mindfulness. And each of them have in it that duality. We practice by paying attention to what it is we're doing. I'm aware I'm picking up a coffee cup. I'm aware I'm picking up a coffee cup. I'm inviting the bell to ring. I'm aware I'm inviting the bell to ring. Okay. Now that would be mindfulness practice. Mindfulness, just being present in the practice that you're doing. Just being present, just sipping the coffee. Aware you're sipping the coffee, understand? It's a question of context and a question of where is your mind? That's why Buddhist teachers often will ask the question, where's your mind? Where are you right now? Are you listening? Are you thinking about whether you turn the coffee pot on or off? Are you worried about the next stoplight, Ian? Or are you just being present as you drive? I think these are important distinctions because we often go around believing we're being mindful as we practice this practice of practicing mindfulness. Now it's excellent training. Don't get me wrong. It's excellent training for the actual practice of being mindful of your breath, of your body, of your mind, and of your feelings. I think that we cannot help but develop that awareness through our practice of Zazen, and through our practice of Kinhin, and through our practice of Waryoki, and through our practice of Samu, or Sumie, or any of the practices that we practice in Zen Buddhism. Because when we practice those things, we practice them wholeheartedly. We practice them being fully present in the practice itself. We don't sit down to practice Zazen saying, well, I'm sitting down to practice Zazen. I'm practicing Zazen. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing in. No, we simply pay attention. We simply are in the practice of being present while we practice this practice. Now, I'm not arguing with the Buddha, understand. I'm actually underscoring what he said. He asked us to practice this in this way, but don't confuse practicing it in this way as the practice itself. And I know that that gets kind of convoluted because we're using the same word in two different ways. Practice. Okay. Maybe I should say we could practice mindfulness in order to be mindful, be the actual manifestation of mindfulness itself. Just like practicing dana paramita, dana generosity, in a way that the Buddha taught, is to just be the manifestation of generosity. No, I am going to be generous. No, I am this or I am that. I want to be this or I want to be that. There's only the being of it, the moment we are in, because that's the only moment we have anyway. So how are we going to manifest ourselves in the moment? Are we going to manifest ourselves as awakened beings, or are we going to manifest ourselves as sleepwalkers? To mention context, I think context is one of the things that's often missing in our conversations today. Whether they're political debates or conversations, or religious ones, or household ones, or financial ones, or anything, often the notion of the context within which we are speaking is either missing or not addressed at all. And that's a problem, I believe. Why would that be a problem? Context gives us a ground on which we'll stand, a world around that ground, the structure, if you will, around that ground, in order to understand the particular situation, whatever it may be, in its entirety, not just from a single point of view. So when I apply that to mindfulness practice, I must understand that I cannot separate mindful breathing from mindful listening, or mindful walking, or mindful talking, or mindful anything. I have to be the whole thing. I have to be the gestalt of mindful, the entire thing, all at the same time. I have to be aware of my body and its position, aware of my breath, so that when let's say I'm chanting a hard sutra, I know where I can take a breath and how deep of a breath I must take in order to get to the next breath. The context of the sutra determines how I'm going to breathe, not the other way around. Now, once I practice that over and over and over again, and it becomes kind of like a muscle memory, then I don't have to think about it. When I don't have to think about it, then I can just be it. Understand? It's like the difference between learning to ride a bicycle and being mindful of all the things you have to do when you're learning to ride a bicycle, and having learned to ride a bicycle and then riding it. When we've already learned to ride the bicycle, we just get on the bicycle and go. We don't think about where we're going to put our feet, how we're going to maintain our balance, what's in front of us, what's behind it. We don't think about all that stuff. We just do it. We just manifest it. And the same thing with mindfulness training. The practice of practicing mindfulness is a way to get to the point and the place where you can be mindful without even thinking about it. You're simply present. You've gained that ability to be aware. And another way of saying it is you gain the ability to be awake, to be fully present with whatever is going on around you in the context it exists. that makes any sense. I hope it does. Okay, now I've talked for 20 minutes. Do I have any questions? Any thoughts? Any challenges to what I've said? Any, I don't know, kind of like digging up potatoes. Are there more potatoes under there to dig up? Christopher, you got some thoughts?
I think we could take that idea of the difference between practicing and apply it to more than just mindfulness as well.
Oh yeah.
We Zazen, but we're not really doing Zazen if we're practicing it. We're training for something. Training and doing are two different things.
That's correct. Christopher, do you have a thought?
Yeah, so if I may, I guess recap, you're saying in order to be mindful in its entirety, we must first learn how to do it before we naturally get there.
Correct.
Okay.
Don't mistake finger pointing to the moon for the moon.
How would we know when we get there?
That's a good question. You would know. Because you,
okay.
I think what here to be not to be flippant, but what happens, I can tell you from experience, what happens is you suddenly are aware that you're aware. Okay, if you get my drift, it's like the first time you ride a bicycle without thinking about riding a bicycle, and then as you're riding a bicycle, you're aware, hey, I'm riding a bicycle without thinking about riding a bicycle. Do you understand? So at some point,
when I hear that though, that makes me think that having that thought of realization, that to me sounds like it's a hindrance of the actual
yes, it does.
Embodiment.
It does. It takes you out of it for a moment. That's true. Yeah. But then we do that all the time, don't we? We come in and out of that because we hold dialogues with ourselves about what we're doing, don't we? And that's a perfectly acceptable thing to do. It's how we learn. It's how we underscore what we've learned. So, well, to put it a different way, Master Dogen in his instructions to the cook says about the cook, the Tenzo, that there's a time to plan for a meal and there's time to make a meal. When you're making a meal, be fully present, making the meal. When you're planning the meal, be fully present when you're planning the meal. Don't confuse the two. They're both being in the moment, okay? So when you are riding a bicycle and you become aware that you're riding a bicycle without thinking about riding the bicycle, that's the moment you're in. Be fully awake to it and present with it. Don't think it's a mistake or somehow I dropped out of being mindful and that's bad, because you are being mindful. You're aware that that's what you're doing. And so mindfulness really is more a question of, are you aware of what you're doing when you're doing it as you're doing it, without any separation between the I that's looking at myself and myself who's doing the thing, if you get my drift. And that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. Yet, many of us do it automatically. When we're fully involved in, let's say, in my case, I was testing my motorcycle battery the other day. When I'm fully involved in testing my motorcycle battery, I'm being present with the motorcycle battery, fully present. That's my moment. The moment I'm in, I put one electrode on the negative and one electrode on the positive, and look at the scale and see how many volts it's getting and all that kind of stuff. You're fully present in it. That's what you're doing. Now, if in the middle of that, I suddenly think about, did I lock the front door? Now I've taken myself out of that moment of being present with the electrodes, and I'm now present with some other moment. Now, they're both mindfulness. I should say better, they're both mindful. Okay. If we allow ourselves to be mindful in that moment and not step out of it and say, oh my God, I'm failed. I failed to be mindful. You know what I mean? Realize that every moment you are, every moment you breathe, every moment you do anything, if you're aware that you're doing it and present in it, that's mindfulness. No matter what it is. And the Buddha even says that he's talking about as we go to the toilet. In the sutra, he's actually saying that about excrement and urine and all that kind of stuff. He gets down to that kind of nitty gritty detail. It's a complete total life experience. Moment by moment by moment by moment. Okay. Well, we're at almost the end of the period here. Ian, do you have anything else to add? What about Ian wife? Wife number one, no, co-pilot number one, I should say.
Oh, she doesn't. I don't think I have anything to add to that one,
No?
other than just say that you practice until you don't need to practice anymore, and you'll know when you don't need to.
Yes, but then that would be a mistake.
And that's easier said than done.
Yes. There's never a time when you don't need to practice. Even the Buddha practiced for his entire life. One who had Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, one who had a complete unexcelled awakening, he still practiced every day. So there you have it. All right, now I'm going to close with the Heart Sutra real quick, the English version that we use. Let me see here. Pull it up. All right. Get myself positioned. Okay. The Great Heart of Wisdom Sutra. When Kanan the Bodhisattva of compassion was practicing the deepest wisdom, he clearly saw that the five aggregates are empty, thus transcending distress and suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness other than form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, feeling, thought, impulse, consciousness. Likewise, like this, O Shariputra, remember Dharma is fundamentally emptiness, no birth, no death, nothing is pure, nothing is defunct, nothing can increase, nothing can decrease, hence in emptiness Marcy. Maria. Hi, Maria. How are you? I can see you, but you can unmute your.
I can hear
What's that? Okay.
your.
Anyway, okay. One last thing. The four great vows. Shigu Segan Shujo Buhen Segando Bono Mujin Segandan Oman Bro Sengan Gak Busudo Mujo Seganjo. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are, I've got a different version here. How immeasurable the Dharmic teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha way is, I vow to follow it completely. Shujo Buhen Segando, Bono Mujin Segandan, Oman Bro Seganga, Musudo Mujo Seganjo. Interesting, isn't it? How that can throw you. I was using a sutra card that we used in my teacher's temple, and it's the old version of the Four Great Vows, not the revised version. The new, well, I say new. It's not really new. It's been around a while. Sodoshu did a new translation with the Soto Translation Project. And instead of, it's interesting, instead of saying free all beings, save all beings, we now say free all beings, which is quite interesting, I think. It's a takeaway, I think, from Western notion of saving souls to a sense of liberating people from the jailer that they have in their own heads. So, Maria, are you still there? Can't see you, nor can I hear you.
I am here.
Who's here?
Oh, I can see. Ian's here.
Yeah, Ian's here. I see Ian. But I got
here.
And Christopher's here. And I have a box on there that says Maria is there, but I don't. There she took off her mute button. Can you speak?
Yeah, I just didn't have a camera on this computer. It's on the
I
other
see.
computer.
Well, thank you for attending. I'm sorry you came in late. But
Yeah, I just got the message.
My problem. I should have sent it out earlier. But Maria, for your information, I do a Dharma talk every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. With this Zoom room, with that ID and password. Okay. So if you want to attend, be my guest, and it would be a delight to have you present, you and your husband, if your husband decides to join us or not. Doesn't matter. And we're going to be doing some artwork pretty soon, right?
Yes, sir. It'll be here Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know when you have some time, when it comes in and you have some time to get together. It doesn't matter what time it is through the day or an evening. I'll make myself available. Okay.
That sounds good.
All
Thank
right.
you for that.
You're welcome. My pleasure, actually. Okay. So anybody else have a thought or comment before we close this little meeting down and decide to have something refreshing?
If I may, I'm just thinking of the Bible verse, "Be still and know God."
Yes.
I find correlation, or at least a similarity between mindfulness and that.
Yeah, you should. I think one thing to know about the Hebrew scriptures and I think the New Testament as well is that meditation and mindful practice were a part of the culture. There, a conservative rabbi, can't remember his name right now. I have several of his books. Wrote a history of meditation, which in Hebrew is called hitbodedut. And hitbodedut means in Hebrew it means meditation. Has a very long tradition in the religious world. It's just that we forgot it. Um, and so he traces back all of the verses in at least in the Hebrew scriptures, which refer to the practice of Hit Bodhi Do. Now, imagine this: you're some Hebrew guy way out in the middle of the wilderness with your sheep or your goats or whatever you're herding around, and you're out there all night long, watching over those sheep. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, those psalms. A lot of those psalms are written, I think, in the evening at night, when the psalm writer was out there in the middle of nowhere, staring at the sky, staring at the universe. And I think if you take the time to practice outside at night, I do that often. Go out in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll go out and sit and basically sometimes lie down on the ground and look up the sky. Sometimes just sit and look at the trees in my my field of vision, and open myself up to the entirety of the universe. It is huge. It is infinite. And here we are. And at some point, as Dogen says in the Genjo Koan, we can allow our mind and body to fall away. And when we do, guess what? There it is. There we are. I see your home. I think that's Ian. Yeah, it's Ian. Okay. Well, anyway, you're right, though, Christopher, and I would urge you to investigate that further. The one thing that's important, I think, about scripture, whether it's Buddhist scripture or Christian or Jewish or Muslim, it really doesn't matter, is that there's an old phrase, to turn it over and over and over again. There's always deeper meanings. There's a surface meaning, and there's a meaning under the surface, and one under that, and one under that. Jewish rabbis think of it as 4 different levels of understanding. The deeper you go, the more complex, perhaps, the more there's a direct experience of what the author of the verse has to say. It's quite an interesting process to look deeper and deeper, to uncover maybe the Tathagata's true meaning. Okay, you don't get that from simply reading the words. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I think study is one of, as Daido Lori says, one of the 8 gates of Zen. Study is important. Anything else, anybody? Sounds like we had a good time tonight. At least I think we did. But if we didn't, that's okay too. Have a good evening.
John said hello, and he didn't know about this because I just snuck in because I just saw the message, but I know the times now. So we'll be happy to join.
Well, that would be great. I'd love to have you both. And we'll go from there. If you have ideas for what you'd like to hear me talk about, send them to me so I'm not having to grasp at things each week, trying to figure out what to talk about.
I have a lot of questions. I'll be happy to message you.
There you go. Message the questions. Okay. Thank you so much. And you all have a great evening. Be well and be blessed. Bye.
Thank you, Daiho.
You're welcome, sir.